Well, how about that? Kyle McCord, top 10 in Heisman voting. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, Saturday night was a pretty big deal. What was Saturday night, you may ask? Well, let me tell you. It was the Heisman Trophy ceremony. For those that don't know what the Heisman Trophy is, it is awarded to the best player in college football on an annual basis. Congrats to Travis Hunter of Colorado for winning the award. But what does it mean for Syracuse? Well, let me tell you, folks. Kyle McCord was not one of the 4 finalists. Oh, that sucks. I know. We all wanted him there in Manhattan. But I got some good news for you guys. In case you might have missed it, Kyle McCord, Syracuse's quarterback this season, he finished 10th in the Heisman voting. So what are we talking about today? We're going to talk about that finish, some prior Syracuse finishes, and the ripple effect that this has on the program. First off, well-deserved for Kyle McCord. I'm not going to argue that he should have been higher because he should have been higher than 10 in the voting. It honestly doesn't really matter all that much to me. Maybe it matters more to you, but I believe that he got the recognition he deserved. And when you look at the 4 finalists, which is really what it comes down to, and ultimately who wins the award, I mean, Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel. I mean, all right, let's take our orange-colored glasses off for a second. Those guys all had better years than Kyle McCord, so they got those 4 right. And ultimately, Kyle McCord being in the top 10, I think, is plenty of respect. So congratulations to him. I mean, he led the nation in passing yards during the regular season. In fact, after conference championship week, he still leads the nation in passing yards. And I don't know how long it's going to be until someone surpasses. I believe it was like 4,300. It could be a couple of games in the college football playoff before someone finally surpasses Kyle McCord, but nobody will surpass his yards per game. McCord set the single-season Syracuse passing records for yards, touchdowns, and completions. There were other records that were mixed in there, but those are the big ones that you should know of. I think 300-yard games, he also set the record. And to be honest with you guys, you can make an argument that he just completed the greatest single season by a quarterback in Syracuse history. Noted. You can make the argument. I'm not saying it was the best. And look, I get it. I'm young. I'm only 22 years old, so I really haven't experienced great quarterback play in my lifetime from Syracuse. But, I mean, Don McPherson in 1987, he's second in the Heisman voting. Obviously, that's probably the number 1 year. It's just complicated because Kyle McCord dwarfs Don McPherson in all the passing statistics. And same with Donovan McNabb in 98 when he was 5th in Heisman voting, but it's different eras. That's what it comes down to, different eras. But again, you can make the argument it was the best season by a quarterback in Syracuse history. You can make the argument. And you can't argue this. It was a spectacular year. Truly was. Truly special. I hope they get him that other year of eligibility. That's all I'm going to say on that, but tremendous work from Kyle McCord. Coming up, we'll talk about the other finishes in Syracuse history regarding the Heisman Trophy, as well as the ripple effect on the program. It's a positive one. So stick around here on this mini edition of the Locked On Syracuse podcast. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Syracuse football. They still got one more game this season. They're playing in the Holiday Bowl against Washington State on December 27th, and FanDuel currently has the Orange as 7.5-point favorites. Now, keep in mind, you're watching this on Monday afternoon. I'm recording this on Sunday evening, so those odds might have shifted. But I imagine Syracuse will still be a heavy favorite because Kyle McCord, who we're talking about on this episode, he announced he's playing in the bowl game. What do you think of those odds? Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and this is a mini edition of the Locked On Syracuse podcast. And we are talking about Kyle McCord recently finishing top 10 in the Heisman voting this season. He set the single-season Syracuse passing records for yards, completions, and touchdowns. Truly a fantastic year for Kyle McCord. Now let's discuss some of the other finishes in Syracuse's history regarding the Heisman Trophy. We already talked about two of them. I mean, Don McPherson, second in the Heisman voting in 87. Donovan McNabb, another quarterback in 98, fifth in Heisman voting. So, with McCord finishing in the top 10, he becomes the 8th Syracuse player to reach that milestone. So obviously that only confirms that he's one of the better players in Syracuse's history. He's also the first player since 2001 to finish top 10 in Heisman voting. That was Dwight Freeney in 2001. Dwight Freeney, an edge rusher and a Hall of Famer for the Indianapolis Colts. For context for you guys, I'm kind of dating myself here. I was born in 2002. So quite literally, I have never seen a Syracuse player up until this year finish top 10 in Heisman voting. So maybe it's not really as much of a big deal to you as it is to me, but it's a big deal that he's top 10 in Heisman voting, especially for this program. This program does have a Heisman Trophy winner, though. It's a little trivia question for you guys. Some of you guys know it. If you really are a diehard, passionate fan, you probably know it. But Ernie Davis, he remains the only Syracuse player to win the Heisman Trophy. That was back in 1961. The ripple effect is pretty positive for Syracuse football. I've said this before, and if you follow along this podcast religiously, you probably know what I'm going to say. But we've been gaining a lot of new followers recently on this podcast, so I might as well give you the overall point anyway. And that is that Syracuse football has put themselves in position to be a desirable landing spot for future quarterbacks. It's undeniable. We already know some of the advantages just naturally. I mean, they're playing in the ACC, so let's be honest with ourselves. It's not the toughest conference in the world. They're playing in a dome. That's a big one. So for more than half the season, you're not going to have to deal with any weather elements. That's pretty good. But now, with this coaching staff in place and the opportunity to win, it's certainly more desirable than it has been in a very long time to be quarterback of Syracuse football. On top of that, this only reinforces that idea with the Heisman Trophy that you can have individual success here. It's huge. You can get national recognition. I mean, think about Kyle McCord now. I mean, if he were to enter the NFL draft, and I imagine he probably will, unless some miracle he gets that extra year, that waiver that we talked about, he's going to get drafted. We weren't saying that a year ago from today about Kyle McCord, were we? Just food for thought. So Kyle McCord, 10th in the Heisman voting. Congratulations to Kyle. And guess what, folks? We're going to see him at least one more time. It's the bowl game, the Holiday Bowl on December 27th. He's playing. So congratulations to Kyle McCord. As far as what is coming up on the podcast in the future, I am recording this currently on Sunday evening, and that's because by the time you're watching this, I'll be traveling. I want to do something on Chris Bell because he did have some interesting comments to the media. That'll probably be a mini podcast, and I imagine that it'll be released on Tuesday. No guarantee I actually do it. I just want to do it. What I can guarantee, though, is that on Tuesday, there will be a full podcast. We are going to talk about the transfer portal, specifically the offensive line. I know it's not sexy, it's not flashy, but guess what, folks? It's important. It's the offensive line. You need to keep your quarterback upright. You need to open up rushing lanes for your explosive running backs, right? Just saying. So we're talking about the offensive line in the transfer portal on Tuesday. Syracuse Nation, we lost a good one in the community on Thursday. Micah Wad 315, he commented on a podcast I did over the weekend that his father recently passed away. Mike and his father are passionate Syracuse fans. And I just want to say that myself, along with the rest of Orange Nation and the Locked On Syracuse family, that we are here for you during this time of need, and that we extend our deepest thoughts and prayers. We are family here in this community and on this channel. And Mike, if you are watching or listening to this podcast right now, hang in there, man. We're all here for you.